Today, I will be looking into Eren Yeager's character and exploring the interesting philosophies he possesses. I will be looking into the concepts of perspectivism, Nietzsche's philosophy, and altruism. But before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you guys subscribe, because only 3.7% of you guys watching are, and I have a slight feeling that there's a very high chance that you aren't subscribed. Oh yeah, and manga spoilers. To understand the concept of Eren Yeager's philosophy, we first must understand the concept of perspectivism. Perspectivism is the view that knowledge of a subject is inevitably partial and limited by the individual perspective from which it is viewed. So, in basic terms, we all know perspectives, right? You know how one person can see a 6 and another one a 9. They're both the same thing, but when viewed from different perspectives, they can mean different things. And, well, yeah, that's basically the whole entire concept. Attack on Titan really focuses on this concept of perspectivism. Like, let me ask you a question. Who's the villain of the show? Is it Rainer, Bertolt, and Annie for infiltrating Paradis? Is it Marley for insinuating this attack? Is it the Eldians from 2,000 years ago for using the power of the Titans? Or is it Eren Yeager for starting the rumbling? Each of these people have different viewpoints, and depending on what perspective you're looking at, they're either right or wrong. And because Attack on Titan does a phenomenal job at telling everybody's story and showing us all the perspectives, we come to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and the main reason that somebody is quote-unquote evil is through which perspective you look at. But this video isn't about Attack on Titan though, it's about the sad Eren Yeager, so let's look at it from his perspective. Ever since Eren was a child, he thought of the world to be divided between two types of things, humans and Titans, or more broadly, humans and monsters. He viewed anybody who was on his side as a human and anybody against him as a monster. This is why, at the beginning of the series, he so easily killed those two robbers, because he viewed them as monsters. And when their survey corps came in looking all battered and defeated, he viewed them as heroes. Perspectivism is what got the whole story moving and shaped Eren's character. First, they said that the walls were impenetrable and would protect us, but then the walls broke and a whole bunch of people died. Then they said Titans were mindless creatures, but then we found out that humans turned into Titans. Then we were told the walls would protect us if we could close it, until we found out the walls are Titans. And finally, we were promised that we would be free if we made it past the wall, but then it just led to another steady reality. Perspectivism is what brought the whole story together, until Eren kissed Historia's hand. Now, Eren knew everything. There's no point in perspectivism anymore, because Eren Yeager knew all of them. He experienced the past, the present, and the future all at once to their paths, and he officially became the Ubermensch. The Ubermensch is the Superman who was thought up by a philosopher called Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche was a pretty smart guy who greatly influenced modern philosophy as we know it. He was a renowned university professor at a young age, but was sick of the institution, so he decided to go to the Swiss Alps to write some philosophy books. He had some really productive years, and wrote some absolute bangers, but he was also a very lonely guy. He sucked at socializing and had no friends, and hated his family, because his sister tried to twist his philosophy to legitimize the Nazis' rule. Because of this, and the fact that nobody cared about his books, he got driven into madness the last couple years of his life, and died at the ripe age of 55. Only a couple years after his death, did people realize that this guy was spitting facts. To sum it up, Nietzsche believed that to be an exemplary human, you have to carve your own life without relying on anything else. Like, let me give you an example. You know religion, right? We all do. Nietzsche hated religion, a lot actually, since he believed that religion made people weak because of how it promoted mediocrity. Think about it. What traits do most religions encourage? Pureness, forgiveness, passivity, humility, obedience are all requirements for being a model believer. But Nietzsche thought that all these traits are just a way to justify passivity and turn you into a herd. Instead of going out and trying your best to be successful, you could just use the excuse of being a pious person to justify laziness. Too shy to muster up the courage to talk to your fellow peers? Don't worry, the meek shall inherit the earth. Don't have the tenacity to work to become rich? Don't worry, it is more likely for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the heaven of God. Always getting last place? Don't worry, God's got you. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. See where I'm getting at? You believe religion just serves as an excuse for bad behavior, while still making you look like an exemplary person. It makes you part of a herd, since instead of thinking for yourself, you let your religion choose your actions for you. And this is the same thing for everything in life that you've been taught. All the traditions you've been taught, like you have to go straight to college after high school, you have to work a 9 to 5 and have a wife with children to be successful. Or it can be even as simple as putting your hand over your mouth as you yawn. You never decided these things. Someone just told you to do it and you did it. You aren't thinking for yourself, instead following everybody else like a sheep. And this is where the Ubermensch, or Superman, comes in. The Ubermensch thinks for himself. He realizes what other people tell him is just what other people tell him, and liberates himself by doing what he wants. This is what Nietzsche believed was the next step in the evolutionary line. Like a man looks down in shame or laughter at an ape, so does the Ubermensch for humans. And this is exactly what Eren Yeager is. The Ubermensch. Eren shows unwavering conviction to accomplish his goal. He does his actions based on what he believes is right, not what anybody else does. He's willing to kill in order to accomplish his goal of what he believes would make the world a better place. Eren is very much grounded in this reality and has no room for idealism, realizing that this is the real world, and if nobody has a better plan, then he needs to take stuff into his own hands. He also shows deep resentment toward those who are unfree. We can see this in the scene with Mikasa and Armin, where Eren is deeply disgusted with them for being slaves to someone and not being able to think for themselves. Eren was so much of a Chad that he looked down on those virgins just as humans look down on apes. No matter what, Eren Yeager just kept moving forward until his enemies were destroyed. That was until chapter 139. Until then, we viewed Eren as the Superman whose goal was to wipe out humanity and start a new world, but we were far mistaken. Eren wasn't the Superman we intended him to be, but in fact, an altruist. To put it simply, an altruist is somebody who puts others before themselves. Like, if somebody needs help moving boxes, they'd help them out of the kindness of their heart, even though it provides them with no reward. Furthermore, unlike utilitarianism, which stresses actions that provide happiness for the most people, altruism does not equate good with the total sum of well-being. Now, love or hate this chapter, we finally find out why Eren Yeager did the rumbling, became a Chad, and committed mass genocide. And that was to give Paradis a chance. He did this to make sure his friends wouldn't suffer anymore. His homeland. He wanted to give them a chance by destroying the Titan power and ending the cycle of hatred, once and for all. He didn't want to do it. I mean, who would want to kill 80% of humanity? We see this in scenes such as that with Ramsey, where we see whatever humanity he has left, and realizes he was doing it so that Eldians could survive. He didn't care about himself. He knew he was going to die. He wanted to save Eldia at whatever cost, so his people could live decent lives, and his virgin friends could be viewed as Chad heroes. Eren Yeager embraced death, embraced suffering, embraced genocide. Also his people would have a chance. And so finally, after all this time, the cycle of hatred could be broken. That is why I think Eren Yeager is incredibly based and a Giga Chad altruist. So, yeah, subscribe, thank you for watching, and as always, stay thinking.